All right, it is a late one, but I am up here with you on a Recher Reacts. Know a lot of people, if you're still up at this time on the East Coast, you just got done watching UFC 306. What an incredible card. We're going to break down the main card for you here momentarily. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at J Recher. Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. Definitely going to take all of these topics and repurpose them on videos, shorts as well. So you can get them in big clips, short clips. We're going to make it work right here on Retro Reacts. Again, appreciate everybody out there. If you're tuning in, feel free to like and subscribe, but also comment. Uh, if you're still up right now, like me, you're a crazy son of a bitch, that's for sure. So leave your questions, comments, concerns there at the bottom of the screen. The best way to do it is head on over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at sign JRecher10, JayRecher10. We're going to talk Billy Napier. We got to get into that. What is going on in Gainesville? We'll talk about that momentarily. USF defeats Southern Miss. They got a big matchup with Miami next week. What are we hearing about that matchup? We'll let you know. Leo Fernandez leads the Rowdies to a thrilling comeback victory over Pittsburgh. And then the Yanks ace. Really a joker? Hmm. If you didn't see the story with Garrett Cole, we're going to get into this, but it's a late one. I appreciate everybody for staying up with me. Again, questions, comments, concerns about any of the topics that you see scrolling down at the bottom of the screen, feel free to chime in. But let's start with UFC 306, and we'll start with the main event. And Merab Dvalishvili defeats Sean O'Malley. I mean, the scorecards 49-46 and 2 48-47s. What are those guys watching? If it was a clean sweep, I wouldn't have gotten mad. I think at the very best it's 4-1, but a thorough ass kicking from Marab. And after the first round, Sean O'Malley just didn't look right. Sugar did not look like he was ready to go, and he's susceptible to this, and that's why there was people out there that thought Aljamain Sterling would be able to beat him. But Marab comes in, sticks to the game plan, incredible takedowns. He stayed active. I know the commentators were freaking out because Herb Dean kept saying, get busy, come on, work, work, work." Like, I'm with you guys. You can't, he was working. We've seen many a fight in the UFC where the guy just kind of lays there, lay and pray, and waits for the time to go down. Marab wasn't doing that. He was trying to advance positions. He was looking for a couple submissions. He was trying to be active with some strikes. I didn't see the big deal. Like, is it aesthetically the most entertaining fight compared to some of the other ones we saw tonight? No, of course not. But he was working. And wow, just an incredible performance for Marab. You tip your hat to him. And I just tweeted out, I don't know if any of you guys saw, but Marab took his jacket and then he took his title. So Sean O'Malley is definitely not going to be happy tonight. But one guy who will be is Marab Duwalis Willie. Just a funny dude, and just like stuck to the game plan. That is what you have to do in situations like that. A classic striker versus grappler matchup. I love that he almost had that kind of Frankie Edgar takedown where he went in with the strike, the overhand right, and finished the takedown. We saw that from Frankie Edgar very early on in his career. Those battles with Gray Maynard and BJ Penn and Ben Henderson. Really good fights with the answer, Frankie Edgar. But shout out to Marab. He's the new king at 135. Can't wait to see who the next guy is up on his docket there. All right, co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso, and kind of similar where Valentina controlled pretty much the entire fight. Takedowns, control. There was a close. Grasso was close there in the fourth round on a guillotine, but it just seemed like Valentina was just cool, calm, and collected the entire time. Eerily similar, right, with the co-main event and the main event, where the belt changes hands, and both probably two, probably two of the least exciting fights of the night. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. Of course, you want to be a fan favorite. Of course, you want to go out there and put on a show for the fans. But when you get to that level, when you get to the title fights, you just got to do whatever it takes to win. So Valentina Shevchenko, one of the best women's fighters, I think one of the best, and I think it was Joe Rogan that said it during the broadcast, one of the most well-rounded and one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, male or female. I mean, just look at who she's been in the octagon with. And I remember early on in her UFC tenure when she faced Holly Holm, and we remember what Holly Holm was able to do to Ronda Rousey and shock the world there. But Holly, just a decorated boxer, kickboxer, MMA fighter, and Valentina Shevchenko just picked her apart. And look at her, Valentina, a point fighter, maybe, and she's using her takedowns to beat Alexa Grasso to retain her, to get her title back. Just a true mixed martial artist. Before that, Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez. Lopez tags Ortega early. It looked like the fight was going to be over. Somehow, Brian Ortega holds on. Lopez probably shouldn't have went to ground with him early because it seemed like Ortega got his bearings back, and it was kind of a measured fight the rest of the way until the end when Lopez was throwing even more bombs. But what a great night there at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Just amazing, the pageantry, and you could hear it in the voice of John Anik and Daniel Cormier and Joe Rogan. Like they're giggling during the broadcast. And just look at this, look at that. And I heard before the fight that it was going to be kind of like a movie. And you saw that, like the way that they were able to put all the graphics on the screen, and it just never stopped. And I don't know if it's because they were controlling the microphones or just because the crowd was so focused on it, but you didn't hear like a lot of chatter between fights. You didn't hear a lot of like loud crowd noises. Like everybody was kind of paying attention. I thought it was cool. It was almost like a Japanese crowd. You see Japanese crowds, whether it's an MMA or wrestling, they're a lot more subdued, and they only really make noise when like great things and big things happen. So really, really different flow of tonight, and they got to go back there at some point. I hope they only go back there for big time fights, big time occasions. 306, so I would say UFC 400, but that's probably too far. But maybe the 4th of July card, maybe the New Year's card, the Super Bowl card, something like that. It's got to be a big deal. But they crushed it tonight. The first two fights on the main card were incredible. The first one, Ronaldo Rodriguez against Ode Osborne. What a freaking fight. Ode drops Rodriguez in the first, and it looks like it's about to be stopped. Rodriguez holds on. Ronaldo gets the tight takedown, almost gets a sub of his own in the second round. A legit MMA fight. And Ronaldo Rodriguez wins the decision. And I thought he won the last two rounds, even though he got dropped in the first. But it seemed like a lot of people out there, and you included, let me know if you thought that Ode should have won this fight. But I saw a couple of different people out there that were watching UFC 306 tonight, and they said that they thought Ode won. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I want to see. It's hard to gauge, right? Because it seems like the biggest damage that was done was in the first round, but with the 10 points must scoring system, um, you could get kind of blown out like that in the first. And if you win rounds 2 and 3, you're going to win the fight. And I think that's what happened in this case. And then Esteban Ribovics and Daniel Zellhuber, and Daniel, the Mexican fighter, and Ribovics, the Argentinian. Daniel had the size and the reach advantage, but Esteban knew exactly how to get inside and do damage. It was just a nutty fight. Fight of the night, candidate for fight of the year. Ribovics wins this one, but really just a solid card all the way around. And then we get the big announcement as well. UFC 309. We mentioned it on the show last night that the co-main event of UFC 309 was going to be a fight between Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. But what was the main event going to be? And then we saw it a little bit earlier tonight, and UFC made it official. John Jones, Stipe Miocic for the UFC Heavyweight Championship, UFC 309. That's your main event on November 16th at the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden in New York City. That is going to be a hell of a fight. My wheels started turning. Maybe I go to that one. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be amazing, though. So this is kind of the battle for probably the greatest of all time. I think Stipe, to a lot of people's opinions, they think he's the greatest heavyweight of all time, and it's hard to argue with that because you look at the guys that he's beaten. But if you look at John Jones, who in my mind is the greatest fighter of all time, um, if he, after being the light heavyweight champion and only losing due to disqualification, the 12-6 elbows that are now illegal, that are now legal, if he goes up and beats the greatest heavyweight of all time, like I think that's it. Like there's no argument. There may not be an argument right now, but if John Jones beats Stipe Miocic, that's it. That this it's the Wayne Gretzky situation. That's it. He's the man. He's number one. There is no disputing it. I cannot wait for that fight. That is going to be insane. All right, questions, comments, concerns, leave them there down below. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Every single subscription helps. Every single comment helps as well. I'd love to interact with you here. It's 2:19 here Eastern, but I'm up here on Recher Reacts for you. Okay, let's get to the main news that I wanted to talk about today, and that was Billy Napier and what the hell is going on with the Florida Gators. That was a tough one today. 3:30 kickoff at the Swamp, and I felt in the beginning of the week I was trying to cheer my guy Zach Lobner up. Happy birthday to my guy Tag Griswell. Tag and Zach, the two biggest Gator fans I know. I thought if DJ Lagway could get in the game and at some point just kind of let him go, that they'd be able to beat a team like Texas A&M, who I thought was probably getting a little bit too much credit going into the 2024 season. However, that's not what happened. And the Gators lose to Texas A&M 33-20. And now we're hearing that there's going to be a meeting with the Board of Trustees as early as tomorrow to determine the fate of one Billy Napier. And trying to do my research and seeing reports, and it says that some of the boosters out there, they've already raised the money for that $26 million buyout. I mean, you look at Billy Napier, 12-16 overall, 6-11 in the SEC, 2-11 against top 25 teams. And you just watch the game against A&M. No identity, no toughness, no rhyme or reason to the decision making. You have later on in the game, you have Graham Mertz leading the team down on a touchdown drive in the second half. And then you go back to DJ Lagway and he throws a pick six. It's like, what the hell's going on? Florida Florida Gators fans deserve better. My guy Zach Blobner deserves better. My guy Tag Criswell, big Gators fan. It was his freaking birthday on Saturday. He deserves better. This is one of the most venerable programs in all of college football. And they have a guy at the helm that is just not ready at all. And I want you to look at this drive at the end of the first half. This drive sums it all up. This drive sums up the Napier tenure up there in Gainesville. Texas A&M is up 13-0. But Florida did a great job. Their special teams did a great job of downing a punt at the 1-yard line. So you hear the crowd there at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. They're jacked up. They're trying to do whatever it takes to be part of the reason why Florida's getting back into this. They turn the tide in the game, turn the tide on their season. A&M, again, they're backed up against their own end zone. Crowd's going nuts. And then Florida lets Texas A&M go on a 15-play, 99-yard drive that lasted 7 minutes and 23 seconds that culminates in a 1-yard touchdown run by Marcel Reed. It's not just who's playing quarterback. It's about getting manhandled in the trenches. Lagway's running for his life. Mertz is running for his life. The defensive line can't hold up. I mean, it's crazy to me that with all the resources that you have there in Florida, all the resources that you have there at Florida, that's the product that you put out there. It's year 3, Billy. And in response to, oh, the fans are booing him, he acts like he understands. Like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You may be aware, but how do you think that's good enough? Like, this, the Florida Gators, I'm not a Gator fan, but my goodness, awful, awful. I mean, he's got to be out, right? Those are just reports with the Board of Trustees on Sunday, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was out by Monday morning. Look at the rest of the schedule. We knew Florida was going to have a tough schedule, but just listen to the rest of it. Next week at Mississippi State. Okay, that might be their most winnable game the rest of the way. After the bye in 2 weeks, they host They host UCF. That's a loss. They're going to Tennessee. That's still scoring points. That's a loss. They host Kentucky on the 19th. They just gave Georgia all they can handle. That's a loss. And then another well-needed bye. And then here comes a loss to Georgia, a loss to Texas, a loss to LSU, a loss to Ole Miss. And then, oh yeah, they travel to Tallahassee for the season finale against the Florida State Seminoles. By that time, I think Florida State probably gets a little bit better. They at least have a coach that won a little something last year. I know that's a dumpster fire. They're 0-3, but I would still take the Seminoles over the Gators right now. Florida might not win another game this year. That is scary. I don't care how difficult the schedule is. But it's not just that they've lost the game so far and they're 1-2. It's how they've lost them. How they lost to Miami. How they lost to Texas A&M. Not good enough. And ultimately, it's going to cost Billy Napier his job. Whether it's this weekend, whether it's next week, it's inevitable. He's like Thanos. This firing is like Thanos. Inevitable. We'll talk more about that on the show, Jay and Zach, starting at noon on Monday. I know my guy, Zach Blobner, is going to be all over that. Done. He's done. All right, next up, I want to talk a little USF football and shout out to the USF Bulls. They fall down 14-0 to Southern Miss. I was a little worried about this game. I mentioned this on Friday on the program, but they bounced back, scored 14 of their own, and it was all about the rushing attack tonight. 369 yards on the ground, 100-yard nights from Kelly Joyner and Naquan Wright, a couple of touchdowns from Kelly, one from Naquan. You got a rushing touchdown and 72 yards on the ground from Byron Brown. It was good to see Teron Keith punch another touchdown in there. He added 53 yards. Byron, 19 of 29 for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns in the air. And one of my favorite things of the night, the fake field goal where the kicker, John Cannon, was able to take the toss from the holder Bolduc. And it was just, that was a lot of fun. He was so close to getting into the end zone, but he unfortunately came up short. 4 for 4 in the red zone were the USF Bulls, 562 total yards. I still think the defense wasn't as sharp as we saw last week in Alabama, at least for the first 3.5 quarters. They're going to have to shore that up because next Saturday night at Raymond James Stadium, we have a fantastic matchup between the two best teams in the state. I know UCF fans are not going to like that. They had a good win against TCU. All right, maybe we'll put you guys in there. Two of the better teams. USF definitely better than Florida and Florida State. That's for sure. But USF, Miami, and they're expecting a sellout. We're talking over 65,000 fans at Raymond James Stadium. People, just go look. Go look and see if you can get some tickets. Zach mentioned on the show this week, a ticket to Florida, Texas A&M this weekend at the Swamp was less expensive than a USF Miami ticket next week at Raymond James Stadium on Saturday night. That building is going to be rocking. Let's see if USF can come up with the goods, because if they win that, who knows? They might be in the top 25. All right, next up, I want to talk about our Tampa Bay Rowdies, and shout out to my guy, Leo Fernandez. And this is something I really was trying to figure out earlier today. What was going on with Leo Fernandez, former MVP of the entire league, but he just wasn't playing a lot. And they were putting him in as a late substitute, and I couldn't get it. I didn't understand why he wasn't seeing more action. But from what I was told, still dealing with an injury, and they had to kind of manage his minutes a little bit. Well, manage his minutes is it's gotten less and less now with them managing it. He comes in at halftime. The Rowdies trailing 1-0. And the second half was just totally different. Totally different. Leo comes in there. He links up with Cal Jennings. They do some work down the right flank. They pass the ball to the front. Manu Arteaga comes in, chips in a goal, ties at 1. And then in extra time, I think it was the first minute of stoppage time, 91st minute, Leo Fernandez driving down the middle of the pitch. Shot gets blocked, gets this kind of rebound in, fires it towards the net, gets deflected, but on the way in, into the back of the net. Rowdies win 2-1. Leo Fernandez, who's got some incredible history coming up. I think it's most games played in a couple of games. If it's going to happen, it'll be in 2 weeks. It looks like a home game against Hartford. And you bet your sweet ass I'll be there to support my guy. But Leo Fernandez, one of our stars of Tampa Bay a couple of years ago. And if you guys don't know, at the end of every year, I do kind of a survey from the top media members in the Tampa Bay area, and we rank the top 20 sports stars of Tampa Bay. And listen, there's been some big names over the years. You know, you figure with the Kucherovs and the Stamkos and the Tom Brady's and the Mike Evans and the Yandy Diaz and Randy Rosarena. But Leo Fernandez cracked the list a couple of years ago, and it just shows you the impact that he had on the Bay Area, and of course, being the USL MVP. It's been rough with him out and not being able to be available full time. But now he's starting to seem like he's getting his legs underneath him. Leo with I think Damian Rivera should probably see more time, as well as the kid Nate Worth. Things are starting to turn, I think, in the favor of the Tampa Bay Rowdies. They're not going to go in as the number 1 seed or the 2 seed like we've seen in years past, but they may be peaking at the right time. And if they have Leo Fernandez there, watch out, because he presents something that I don't think anybody else in the league has. A guy that's going to be fresh during a time of the year where a lot of people are kind of, fading down the stretch. Okay, last thing I want to talk about on the show tonight before we hit the hay, because it is a late one. It is 2:30 in the morning, so I appreciate if you're up with me. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them there below. Also, shout out to Canelo Alvarez. Watch that match. Um, Pretty good fight, not too bad. Big knockdown in the third round, but he stayed strong. And listen, to go 12 rounds with Canelo Alvarez, I mean, I think that's pretty respectful. If you're Edgar Berlanga, I think you should be happy with that. His first loss, I know it's tough. The one knockdown in the third, I think it just kind of caught him off guard because you saw him like banging his gloves together, like, damn, he got me. But you go 12 rounds with one of the all-time greats, Saul Canelo Alvarez. Hey, I think that's a building block for sure. All right, finally, I want to talk about this. Uh, this was my "what the hell are you doing" moment of the day in sports. Garrett Cole is supposed to be the ace of the New York Yankees. And in today's game against the Boston Red Sox, he did something that I just cannot fathom. You got paid more than any. You got paid. Let's look at this contract real quick. Garrett Cole signs deal with Yankees. Let's see there. Okay. Garrett Cole signed a $324 million contract with the New York Yankees, the team that he grew up cheering for. And today, in a game against the Yankees' most hated rivals, the Boston Red Sox, where he held the first 10 batters hitless, he walked Rafael Devers with nobody on and nobody out. That's right. Nobody on, nobody out. Now, there's a discussion. There was discussion after the game where Yankees manager Aaron Boone said he and Cole discussed in the lead up to the game about being more aggressive in the use of intentional walks. What? Being more aggressive with intentional walks? Does that even make sense? Bro, you're getting paid $324 million to pitch for the New York Yankees. And I know he was hurt early in the season, and you kind of want to manage his innings. But isn't this a little much? And you didn't even tell the catcher. Austin Wells, the catcher, was asked after the game, and he was like, I was caught a bit off guard. Thought he had some good momentum. Well, Boston used that momentum of getting a free pass to their best hitter, and they scored 3 runs in that 4th inning. And they went on to win 7-1. At times in sports, people they overthink it. It's wild to me that this happened. Garrett Cole and the New York Yankees should be ashamed of themselves. They should. The New York Yankees, the most popular franchise in all of sports, their best pitcher, the guy that they paid 9 figures to, in a game where he got 9 out of the first 10 batters out, and I don't care what the history is like between Garrett Cole and Rafael Devers. I'm well aware. But if you're going to give that guy a free pass, what kind of message are you sending to the rest of your team? What kind of message are you sending to the other team? I know exactly the message you're sending to the Boston Red Sox. You're saying, I'm scared of your best hitter. And they use that momentum to win the game. Garrett Cole and the Yankees should be ashamed of themselves. I cannot believe that I saw that today. ESPN research says Saturday marked the first time a Yankees pitcher intentionally walked a batter with the bases empty and less than 2 outs since intentional walks became official in 1955. Devers said, he caught me by surprise. I didn't expect that from a future Hall of Famer, and I feel like he panicked a little bit. That's the guy that you're expecting to toe the rubber for game one of the playoffs? That's the guy that you want on the mound for game 7 of the World Series? Don't give me the BS excuse about, oh, you're trying to save innings. Okay, well then, you know, then say he's only throwing 85 pitches then. Don't tell me that you're saving pitches by intentionally walking Rafael Devers. If he hits a solo home run, so what? Who the hell cares? That's not going to give the team the moment. And plus, he was struggling. He was struggling. Let's see. Devers 14 for 41 with 8 home runs and 15 strikeouts against Cole. Right. I don't understand. It's sad. This is just a classic case of overthinking. Over analyzing. Go out there and play ball. Go out there, nut up, toe the rubber, and freaking pitch to the guy. If the New York media doesn't slam Garrett Cole on Monday, I will be very surprised. This is the guy that's supposed to be your leader. And he's intentionally walking hitters because he's worried about pitch count. It's not just about pitch count. You're worried because he owns you. Step up. That's a good opportunity for you to kind of take some of your land back. The Yankees, I'll say it one last time. Garrett Cole and the Yankees should be ashamed of themselves, and they deserve to lose that game today. All that momentum that you had the other night from Aaron Judge hitting the walk-off, or not, excuse me, all that momentum you had the other night from Aaron Judge hitting the grand slam, poof, gone because of that. Woof. That's awful. Do better or don't. That's your prerogative. Shout out to my guy, Greg. Greg, I got to hit the hay. Go, let's go, Bucks. You got that right. I will be watching the Buccaneers game 1 o'clock tomorrow. We will have Recher Reacts tomorrow night talking all things NFL. I'll have Recher's rapid reaction as well. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm everywhere, man. TikTok. Like and subscribe to my YouTube page as well. That's going to wrap it up for me. I know it's a late one. It's 2:37 a.m. I got to go cut up some videos before I go to bed. I love you all. We'll see you next time right here on Recher Reacts.